Well, hey there, current issues friends. It's time to start thinking about our end of the semester project. We have been working all semester long on various issues that HR has to deal with. And the purpose of all of the discussions, the purpose of all of the research that you've done in your teams is to learn how to get your head around an issue or a problem, and hopefully to be able to see it from multiple perspectives, to step outside of your personal what is right and wrong and look at what is good for the people, what is good for the organization, to learn how to approach things from a perspective that is not biased in any way, and to think strategically, to think big picture. What is the best thing for both the people and the organization? And what we want to do in this project is take one step farther. In your professional paper, you got to know an HR person, you got to know a little bit about their organization, and at the end of that, you identified a couple of potential issues that they need to start working on soon. Some of you may have identified an issue that they're already working on, and we want to put that aside for this project and focus on something that they have not started working on yet. In the issue paper, then, you took one of those issues from your professional paper and you did some exploring in SHRM to kind of get an idea of what's going on with that topic. And at the end of that paper, you said, here is one possible small-scale solution. Now, hopefully, if everything has worked out right and the stars have aligned, the issue part of your professional paper created your issue paper as you dug in deeper, and the solution that you proposed at the end of your issue paper then becomes the foundation for this project. Now, it's possible that you can't really develop your project out of what you've done so far, and you kind of have to back up a little bit and start from a different angle. But what I want you to do in this project is to build on that solution that you suggested at the end of the issue paper and explore it from a cost perspective so that you could make a recommendation to senior management. Let me share my screen here and pull up the instructions that you can pause this video and print out now to have on the table in front of you. And let's talk through what I want you to do here and then look at the rubric on how I'm going to grade the thing. So we'll share my screen here. We'll call up the semester project. And that's the wrong file. Good grief, Dr. Grimes, that's my master's level project. So let's find the right one here. It should be the current issues final project overview. There we are. Okay, so big picture is what we've been looking for all semester. You've learned an awful lot in your classes about various things, and now you're stepping back as a soon-to-be graduate and looking at things strategically. You're going to pull together ideas about that solution that you proposed in your issue paper, but you can go with a different company altogether or a different issue with this particular company. But what you want to do is forget so much about the SHRM part of it. This is not a research project where you're going to look at academic articles and SHRM articles and write a paper. This is a project where you start thinking like the Chief Human Resources Officer trying to sell senior management on a solution. Now, keep in mind that senior management, and especially your Chief Financial Officer, isn't going to be interested in your solution if it doesn't make sense money-wise. So a big part of what you've got to do to sell your idea is to show them that it is cost-effective, that there is a positive return on their investment. It's not just throwing money at a problem with not a lot to show for it. And to be the most successful in this, you've actually got to be able to say, you're going to spend this amount of money, but we foresee that it will save us that amount of money. And so you're going to come out ahead if you'll actually spend this money. You also want to be able to show the executive people, here's how it's going to happen. Here's the timeline on how it's going to happen. Here's going to be who's responsible for various parts of it, and so forth. So think about all of the questions that they could ask you related to this project and be ready to answer them in the proposal that you're going to make. So, determine the issue and make it as narrow as possible. A couple of semesters ago, I had somebody that was doing a project related to bad morale. And that in itself is definitely an HR issue. They're going to come to you, morale's horrible, what are we going to do about it? And so that part was okay. But then what this student did was to start throwing out lots of different ideas. Let's have a better training program. Let's give people bonuses. Let's increase their pay. On and on and on. And I thought, oh, wait, that's way too much. That's way too much. Pick one of them. Figure out what it's going to cost to raise their pay. What's going to be the change in our budget if we increase them, $1 an hour or whatever. Don't try to solve 12 different things in this one proposal. You may not solve the problem of morale with this presentation, but you'll make one step towards solving morale. So make it very, very narrow, as specific as possible. With the understanding, again, you come into your presentation and say, you've told me that we've got a morale problem and you've asked me to figure out how to solve it. We're not going to solve it with this presentation today, but we're going to make a dent in it. We're going to make a small step towards solving it, and we're going to have more proposals in the future. Let's focus today on this one small thing that we can do to start making progress in the right direction. So that's the perspective you want to take. If you're looking at something like morale, or you're looking at something like the health of our employees, too much smoking or overweight or whatever, small step is all we can do. Research the issue, figure out the best proposal, and then start to build an oral proposal. If you want to make a PowerPoint, that's fine, but you're not going to use the PowerPoint in your proposal. You're just going to talk to me on camera. We're also going to have a guest CEO. That's an HR person from in the community of Americas that's going to listen in on your proposal, think like a CEO, and give me feedback on what they see are the issues with your proposal, where the holes are, and so forth. So one outside person along with me listening to your proposal. In your proposal, your oral presentation that you're going to do through Video Collaborate, Blackboard Collaborate, or Teams or something, I haven't decided quite yet, but it'll be virtual, sitting in your living room, me sitting in my den. You're going to have to tell me, see here, in about 8 minutes. Now, it's important that you target 8 minutes. I don't want a 4-minute proposal. I don't want a 12-minute proposal. I want maybe 7.5 to 8.5. Hit the high spots, answer the questions you think are going to be asked, and then finish up your proposal. 8 minutes or so, you're going to kind of give me a quick background on what the problem is, why it's a problem, and then introduce your solution, and then start going into all of the numbers as succinctly as you can. Go into the timeline, go into the responsibility, so forth. You can see all that here. What, how we should address it, cost, benefit. I'm certainly going to be interested in the costs involved. Even something as simple as having a monthly birthday party. I want to know what the costs are, the cost of the cake, the cost of the peanuts, the cost of 12 of our people missing an hour of work and lost productivity, all those kinds of things. Think big picture. Think about all of the different things that are going to cost us money, even if it's not money out of our pocket, but lost opportunities, the opportunity costs, so forth. You're going to be making a presentation to the board. It's going to be me and one other person, but you're going to act like it is to the board. As you have researched this and gotten numbers and things, don't be shy about your numbers. Don't be unconfident. I think it might be such and such. No, be strong, be determined, be certain. This will cost us this. I may ask you where you got that number from, but I'm pretty much going to trust you that you've done the research on this. All right, so it's not research oriented. You're not looking for academic articles. You're trying to be very, very practical. Here's a problem. Here's what I think a good solution is to at least start addressing it. Here's the costs. Here's what we're going to gain from it. Here's what it's going to take to do it. And ultimately, in 8 minutes, you want to be able to sell me and our CEO that this is the right solution and we should start now. That's what our goal is, a presentation, real-time, real-life setting of your choosing. All right, let me stop that. We've gotten what we need from the instructions. Let me look then at the rubric for this thing. It's got to be something HR would do. Had somebody a couple of semesters ago that was looking, their company was looking to open up a new warehouse, and they were looking at whether it was going to be, let's say, in Charlotte or in Charleston. I don't know where they were. And I thought, okay, that sounds okay. But what this person decided to do was to analyze which one of those two cities was better from an operational point of view. And I thought, no, 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 no. They're not going to come to HR to do that. What they're going to come to HR to do is to figure out how we're going to hire the people we need, regardless of which location we choose. So make sure that it's something they're going to come to HR for, and make sure that it's very narrow. Like I said earlier, we have overweight people. We're not going to solve that in one proposal. That would be something that we would clearly come to HR for, but your proposal needs to be very, very narrow. So clearly HR and narrow, clearly HR but broad, not clearly HR but still narrow, not clearly HR and way too broad. Then I'm looking at several things related to your proposal. I'm looking for whether it makes sense or not. Is it going to do what you think it's going to do? 5 points on that. 35 points, that's a third of your overall grade, is related to your numbers, your logistics. There's a little bit of logistics here, but costs and benefits and return, the intangible things, and you can see there are various point levels depending on how well you do that. The logistics, that's the flow, that's the timeline, that's who's responsible, that sort of thing. So we've got 35, 40, 50, that's 60 points already right there. The other 40 points, at the end of your 8 minutes, we're going to have 4 or 5 minutes available where we can ask you questions. And I'm going to ask my guest CEO, as that person is making notes on your presentation, to identify things that you have not addressed, and to ask you at least 2 questions to see not only how well can you pull from your memory and your notes things that you haven't talked about, but how well you respond when you're put on the spot. So at least 2 questions from your CEO. I might ask you another question or 2 depending on what the CEO asks you, but up to 10 points based upon how well you do answering those questions. Do you give me the information I need? Are you to the point? Do you wander a little bit? Are you completely off track? Does it seem like you have no idea what you're talking about? All right. The next part of it is 10 points based on time. You get the full 10 points if you finish within the 7.5 to 8.5 minute range. For every half a minute under or over, you lose another point. So your target, if you have to, put a glass of water in the microwave and set it for 8 minutes and try to make sure you're done by the time it dings. Now, that doesn't mean that if you're done in 4 minutes that you just kind of wander and kill time. It's got to be 8 minutes of good, useful, productive information. So time is 10 points out of your 100. And then your style. Do you look at the camera most of the time? You're not going to have a PowerPoint. You're going to be talking to the camera. You may have some note cards or notes. You're going to glance down, but you're going to look right back up. So eye contact. Are you calm? Does it seem to flow well? Do you know what you're talking about, or do you stumble around? On a video call, can we hear you? Is your voice strong? Do you have some enthusiasm in there? So 10 points on your presentation style. And then at the end of the presentation, over the next day or 2 after that, our CEO is going to think back, reflect upon your presentation, and he or she is going to send me an email, and they're going to give you a grade. This was perfect, or I'd say it was an A, I'd say it was a B, and a little bit of feedback. I will give you word for word the feedback that the CEO gives you, but their grading of you and your presentation is going to be worth 1/10 of your grade, 10 points, 987, so forth. So study this a little bit. You clearly want to be in this column as much as you can. So look at the description of this column and do as much as you possibly can to hit all of the things in this column in order to get the best grade possible. From a big picture perspective, I find that, let's say I had a class of 20. In this class, we've got 16, so that's ballpark of what I'm giving you here. In a class of 20, I might have really 2 or 3 A's that have done really, really well. I might have 2 or 3 C's that just didn't seem to understand it. So it's not that difficult to get a B on this project. You got to go a little bit above to get an A from a historical perspective. But I'm telling you right now what you got to do to get it. Okay? Hopefully that makes an awful lot of sense. You got a better picture of what the project is. If we need to get as a class on some video calls to ask and answer questions, we will do that through Teams, through Collaborate, whatever the case may be. But hopefully you got an idea of what you got to do to be successful, and you're ready to start thinking. You're going to do your presentation probably either on like a Monday night, a Tuesday night, or a Wednesday night. And each of those nights, maybe Thursday even, but on each of those nights, we'll have either 3 or 4 of you. If you're not one of those 4, let's say for Monday, you don't log into the call at all. So you log in on the night that you're presenting, and you plan on being on that call for an hour. You're going to do a presentation, and you're going to listen to either 2 or 3 other presentations. Log in at the beginning of the call, even if you're the last one to present, and log out at the end of the call, even if you were the first one to present. So you're going to hear several others. You're not going to ask any questions. You're probably going to mute your mic, and you're going to turn off your video, and you're just going to listen, but get ideas about how other people present. And then the other 2 nights or 3 nights, you won't log in at all. All right, hopefully that answers most of your questions. As we get closer to this, I'll start asking you to email me for what time slot you want. Everybody's going to have a block of 15 minutes. So Monday we'll have, 8 o'clock, 8:15, 8:30, and 8:45. And you'll tell me I'd like Tuesday at 8:30 or whatever it is. And first come, first serve until we get all our slots filled up. Looks like we'll probably, with 16 people, have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for an hour each night. Again, you've got an hour one night, I've got an hour all 4 nights, but I'm sure we'll have some really good presentation. Now, in our course content, there is a folder. I'm looking at it on my other screen here that you will have access here to shortly. There's a folder called Course Project that should be open as you're looking at this video. And there are 4 videos in there called Example 1, Example 2, Example 3, and Example 4. Those are projects from previous semesters that I have recorded that got an A. So you can listen to those projects and kind of get an idea of the kinds of things they talk about in a project that is done very well. Now, assuming that I remember to, here's a forewarning for you. I'm going to record the entire hour all 4 nights. And if one of you ends up knocking it out of the park and getting a really solid A, I will ask you if I have your permission to use yours as an example for future classes. If you say no, I won't use it. If you say yeah, that's fine, then there'll be a 5th example or a 6th example out there for future classes. All right, that's enough for now. I've been going on here about 17 minutes, and the purpose here was to give you a real good understanding of what it is you have to do. Hopefully that this video has accomplished that. Again, let me know if you have questions, if we need to get a class video call together, A, so that you can see some other people and interact with them, but B, so that you can ask me questions. Let me know, and we'll try to set something up for the very near future. I'm also teaching this semester 2 online MBA classes, and I have periodic video calls with them anyway, so I may have to play with my calendar a little bit to find a time, but I'm certainly willing to spend the time with you that you need to feel good about this project. That's it for now. Hope you got a pretty good idea and you have some thoughts already on how you're going to proceed with this. Let me know if you don't.